the game plan a little bit better in terms of field position. I think sometimes you get a young punter and all they want to do is drive the ball and hit big balls and get numbers and all that. And I think one of the things he's been doing a really good job of is ball placement, ball inside the 20, understanding the field position battle. And I think he's got like 9 punts inside the 20 the last 2 weeks. So that's really been huge for us. The field position battle the last 2 weeks in particular, we have won that battle, and that's been, that's not a coincidence that the result is good for us as a team. And so I think he's starting to understand that a little bit. We missed on our target a few times, in terms of directional that he's going to work on. But for the most part, I'm really, really liking what he's doing.
Riz, I don't think anybody's expecting the 8 inches of snow Buffalo had last week. But if there is snow on the ground, how does that affect the kicking game?
It's interesting, watching last week's game, just watching how those guys handled it. I think the one thing we've, always are going to talk to our guys about with the inclement weather is the ball is the first priority. So whether it's the operation, the snapper, kicker, holder, or it's the returners, it was funny last week. A lot of times the ball was landing on punts, just landing in the ground and sticking, because there was so much snow. But the operation, you look at a guy like Vinatieri last week who's, I think he only missed 1 field goal coming in, misses 2, a short one and a game winner. And so that's certainly, going to be something that it's hard to replicate in practice. So there's not much you can do. And so when we get up there and see what we have going on, I mean, that's just going to be something we really got to work on, just taking care of the football, the operation. And we played up there before in inclement weather. And, a guy like John Denny's been around for a while, and Cody Parkey played and certainly played in Philadelphia and Cleveland, so he's been through it as well. And so we do have a couple experienced guys. And, we got to see what it's like. So, I mean, it's just really taking care of the ball. And when you do end up punting the ball or having field goal attempts, those are going to be really critical in those types of situations.
Rizzi, last year, special teams had a huge hand in beating Buffalo up there last season. Sort of similar question, but does it heighten in importance the third unit of special teams in that kind of game when weather could be an issue?
It does. It certainly does, because we all know that if you do get inclement weather, that the field position battle is even more important. It's hard to drive the ball long distances in those types of conditions. Your decision making could end up being different on whether it's a punt or field goal attempt or go for it, things like that. So whether you have 4 downs or you're going to try to pin your opponent deep. We had a long field goal last year. It was ended up being obviously a monster play at the end of that game. So that, I talked before about Matt Hawk, the inside the 20 punts, things like that really become, premium in those types of games. And so, again, we'll see what we get. Not that they're not important in every game, because they are, but certainly when you get some, whether it's rain, snow, bad weather, it's hard to drive the ball, for long distances and long drives. So that field position really becomes huge.
Riz, the onside kick last week that New England attempted, it looked to me as though it was traveled like 8 yards. Looked like it was short. Yeah. In that situation, do you tell your guys wait on the ball or attack the ball?
Yeah, it's a really interesting situation. So I've seen that before a couple times. Basically, what New England did was they came out. They didn't even have a tee. I don't know if you realize the ball was on the ground. And so what you're trying to do on that play is you are trying to make the ball go just about 10. And I wasn't sure live, whether or not it was going to travel 10. Looking at, second view on it, hindsight's always 20/20. It probably was going to go just about 10. So Gostkowski actually kicked a pretty good ball for what they were trying to do. So if you're Mike Thomas in that situation, Anthony Fasano, the guys we had there, essentially what they're trying to do is they're trying to put you in a bad spot of indecision. And so if you let that ball travel to 10, now it's obviously a slow roller. Now they're on top of it. Now once it gets to 10, now it's anybody's ball. And so what we were, I thought Mike Thomas played the play very well. He's got to make a split-second decision on whether or not he thinks that ball is going to travel 10. And if he does think it's going to travel 10, he's going to get on it before they have an opportunity, to get it as well. So it's definitely a little bit of a unique play for sure. It is something we have talked about. It's one of the onside kicks. We go through a variety of onside kicks with our guys and the hands team and the different options we can get. It was a very interesting formation. As you saw, they put one guy out on each side to be legal outside the numbers. You're supposed to have 3 guys outside the hash on each side. They were very close on that one. So, but as far as the decision making goes, I mean, you got to make a split-second decision. I thought Mike Thomas did a good job. And then obviously, once he touches the ball, even though it doesn't go 10, then it's obviously a live ball for everybody. And I thought he did a great job recovering it.
Riz, speaking of Mike Thomas, that was kind of one of the first plays he made this year that really stood out to everybody. What kind of year has he had on special teams?
Another solid season. I think the one thing that gets lost, I think, since 2014, Mike Thomas leads the NFL in special teams tackles. Since 2014, and that this season's been no different. He's our leading tackler right now on special teams. I think a lot of times he may not make those flash plays. Maybe those plays that are noticed to the average fan, but he has a lot of grunt work, a lot of dirty work. He's obviously our personal protector on PP. Does a heck of a job of covering punts, does a heck of a job of covering kicks. He's kind of obviously our vocal leader. He's our leader on the field. He's our quarterback, if you will, of special teams. And so, not only has he been productive on the field, his off-the-field role that I get to see on a daily basis is just as important, in my opinion, because we have a lot of young players, a lot of young guys the last couple of years that have played special teams for us, and he's a phenomenal mentor, not only from an example, a physical example, but just, in the classroom, leading those guys, helping them out. And so I, nothing but positive to say about Mike, but I thought he's played well this year.
This year he makes his first Pro Bowl? I'm sorry, Adam. This year he makes his first Pro Bowl?
I wish I had the magical answer to that. I mean, I'm certainly a guy that's thought he's played well enough to make the Pro Bowl for the last few years. So you can't never predict the voting, and we know how that goes. But I certainly would. He's got my vote. So.
When it comes to an offseason, you guys make decisions. How much do you get on the table for a guy like Thomas Slater, Steve Tasker, I guess, an example, who might not see it down, base defense, but you need him for that game?
Well, Adam, I think the one thing you're seeing more and more now in the NFL is a lot of teams are keeping players like that. You mentioned a couple of guys. You mentioned a guy like Matt Slater, who, use him as an example. I don't know how many. He's probably played less than 100 offensive plays in his career. But he's their captain, he's their leader, he really handles all their special team stuff. And, Mike Thomas has a lot of the same things for us. Like I said, he's been voted captain the last few years by his teammates. They see it, I see it. He's a great mentor, like I mentioned. And there's a lot of teams that are keeping a few of those guys around. Not only are you keeping one, but there's a lot of guys, usually a lot of, if you look through the NFL, there's teams that are keeping 3 or 4 guys on the roster to be those veteran-type special teams players, and that's what Mike Thomas is for us. Sure.
Obviously, because it's New England, everybody's going to say, hey, they get credit for being as innovative and, bring it to the forefront first. But you said you've seen it before. Where else had you seen it?
I did. In fact, I think the guy that's on the special teams coordinator in Tennessee, Steve Hoffman, I think he ran a similar play when he was in Kansas City. I've seen him do it before with, I believe it was Ryan Suckup, their kicker. I want to say it was 3 or 4 years ago. I've also seen it. I've seen it in college a few times. I've seen it, so I have seen that. Now, a lot of teams will also use the same type of play with a T, and do the slow bunt. But obviously, you can get a little bit of a slower roll if your ball's on the ground. And so, I go to my kids' Pop Warner games all the time. You should see some of the onside kicks that they have. So they find new ways every week. I don't think they kicked the ball deep once this year. So I've seen a lot of it at the 11U games in Cooper City and Davie, But no, I have seen it before, and it's something we have looked at in the offseason. So what we try to do is we keep a collection of onside kicks in the offseason, and then what we'll do is we'll try to evaluate as many as we can and show our guys as many possible. So we'll bring up clips. When we show our hands team, we'll bring up clips from 3 or 4 years ago because you never know when you're going to, those are going to pop up again. So it is something, that formation, that kick is something that we have looked at before.
Because it places everyone in such a bind, why maybe haven't we seen it more consistently?
I think you've seen the one with the T a bunch. We call that a lot of people call it a bunt. So we've seen a lot of people do it with the T. I just think a lot of people are maybe apprehensive or, very, very cautious to do it without a T because if you hit the ball, it doesn't go 10, then you don't give yourself an opportunity. So, but I mean, obviously they have a quality kicker in Gostkowski, and they probably practiced enough. They felt like, they had a good, onside kicks across the league when they're coming, or it's a low percentage play. So I'm sure in their mind that's just as good a chance to recovering that one as any other ball.
When you saw there was no T, you had an idea something like that was coming, right?
The thing that I was very proud of our guys is what New England did was they tried to make it look nonchalant, like they were just kind of standing around hanging out. And I think they tried to catch us off guard a little bit. Our guys were on top of it right. As soon as they hand the kicker the ball, he's obviously able to, once the wing officials go out, they're able to kick it. And our guys were on top of it. Now, the one thing, New England's done a bunch of different, I want to use the word oddball, but abnormal onside kicks over the years. They've had Nate Ebner rugby kick one off the ground. They've had Nate Ebner, they've had Gostkowski swinging on miss on purpose, and Ebner hit a thing. So we were prepared for something that they hadn't done. And I kept saying to our guys all week, when we get in that situation at the end of the game, it's not going to be a play we've seen. It's going to be something that's going to be innovative or new, or they're not going to try the same thing, because we're going to be prepared for those. And that's usually what they do. So that's why we go back and look at a bunch of plays throughout the league and try to figure out and just make sure we're prepared for as many as we can. But I knew it was going to be something out of the norm.
Can you ballpark how many onside kicks you'll see over a season around the NFL if you watch film? Didn't Sturgis do like a behind the calf?
Yeah.
Like how many? Would you see a dozen?
So you know what? Give you a backtrack a little bit on it. A lot of teams started going to that spike kick. Just to line up and spike it. And what happens is, finally, and people start to get good at defending that play. And so then people come up with new ideas. All right, the spike kick is not the new thing. Now what can we do to come up with a new one? So in the course of this year, I watch every onside kick from the season. I've probably seen it through the 14 weeks, 25 to 30 different, and we have, there's different variations, there's different motions, there's different, you guys have seen us do the one with two kickers out there, and you're trying to keep the hands team off balance. You don't want them to be lined up and they know one specific thing is coming and they're able to defend it. There's very, very good coaches in this league. If they know what's coming, they're going to have a way to defend it. So you're trying to keep that team off balance in that situation.
Can you tell us names of them?
There's spike, there's swing back, there's bunt, there's dribble, there's slam, there's smash. Smash, pooch, mortar.
Smash, pooch is one?
No, smash, comma, pooch, comma, slam, comma, swing back, comma, spike, comma, bunt. Trying to think if there's any others that I've, there's dribble, yep. And then there's now obviously there's all those in both directions, And then there's a rugby kick out of your hand, and then you'd be surprised that even, and we don't see this situation often, but we almost had it the week before against Denver. If you get a safety, this is what a lot of people don't think about this. If there's a safety, and the other team isn't in a position where they have to onside kick it, so say Denver the week before, we got that safety late in the game. If they wanted to onside kick it, they cannot use a T. They don't have any option. NFL is different than college. So, and a lot of people don't realize that because it's a very rare play. So we call it an after a safety. We call it onside after a safety. You have to come out there. If you want to onside kick it from the 20, you can't bring the tee out. So you don't have a choice. So you're going to see a play like New England. You're going to see a drop kick. You're going to see something out of your hand. When we blocked the punt a few years ago against Minnesota late in the game, they did one with Blair Walsh. They did a spike, and he dropped it, kicked it to his left, our right. We had a 2-point lead with less than a minute to go. So these are all situations that a special teams coach has to cover, and you never know when they're going to come up. They could come up once in 10 years, but these are things that we do in our Saturday meetings, our weekly reminders, and things that we have to cover because we got to be prepared. You never know.
Once in 10 years could cost you a game.
That's exactly right. And I've been here 9, and I've only seen that. We've only been a part of that post-safety onside kick twice. Once in Buffalo my first year, and then once in Minnesota, where we on Hans' team, they were onside kicking it from the 20. So twice in 9 years, but we got to be ready for it every week. So
You wanted to, right? Just a normal kickoff? Is that
you
correct?
can punt a kickoff. Yeah, you can do anything you want on a regular kickoff from the 35. After a safety, you can do anything without a tee.
I didn't realize it didn't have to be on the ground for you to for a kickoff.
Yeah, you don't have to. You can have the ball in hand, and you can kick it off the ground. And so that's what I said. Like that's one of the things that New England had done in the past. So we got our onside kick.
So you can have the ball. So like off of like a flag football game, you can have someone throw it 60 yards, 70 yards into the end zone.
I misunderstood your question.
You said you can have the ball in hand. Can
Yeah,
that
yeah.
person throw it?
No.
Okay.
No, and just so we're clear, on the after a regular kickoff, you can have the ball in hand, but it's got to hit the ground for it to kick it. On a post safety, obviously now you don't. You can kick it right out of your hand. You can drop kick it from the 35 on a regular kickoff, but the ball does have to hit the ground. Yeah, just to be clear. Yeah, you can't just wing it or throw it. So, but these are all things, and we didn't even get into the fair catch kick question yet. We'll save that for next week.
Kickoff is kick off the ground.
Yeah. Did anybody know that after a fair catch you can kick a field goal? Anybody aware of that?
Yes.
You get a free kick after a fair catch, but you never see it. But we got to be ready for that every week too. So.
What was the onside kick called that Parkey did where it kind of just bounced along with him and then he recovered?
The one against the Raiders, yeah, we just call that a bunt. We call it a bunt. Yeah, some people call it a dribble. Some people we call it. There's 50 different names. Talking 10 different coordinator, special teams guys will give you 10 different names. But anyway, appreciate it, man.
Adam's gonna be next.
You got it.